Welcome to this edition of Extreme Reloading. In this episode, we're darn close to our season finale, and we're going to be answering a few questions. First of all, I have 3 different reloads. Now, this reload set number 1 is based on my Lake City 15 brass that has been sorted by weight and by case head diameter, neck thickness uniformity, overall length of the case, etc., etc. These are all loaded identically with very, very consistent brass. Now this set has 69 grain Barnes match burners. Set number 2 is very similarly crafted. It is based off of Lake City 15 brass, and all this brass has the same case weight, 95.5 grains. I loaded up 10 of these with the 40 grain Barnes Varminators. Set number 3 is loaded with Sierra tipped Match Kings 69 grain bullets, and these are all based on 96.1 grain case weights. And in all cases, I have checked and measured case head diameters, overall length of the cases, etc., etc. Now I'm going to put these head to head with Hornady Match ammunition. This is the 73 grain ELD match bullet. And I've heard lots of good things. And in fact, by looking over the blogs and the websites discussing 5.56 223 ammo, a lot of people, I don't know the majority, but close to the majority of people say this is the best stuff you can buy. Now, to have a little bit more fun, I'm also introducing some RWS. One of our viewers noted that he found RWS brass to be some really, really good stuff. Probably up there with Lapua and Norma. I don't know, I haven't tested it out. But it's hard to get RWS brass short of buying the cartridges, buying the loaded rounds, firing them, and keeping the brass. So, this is part of the mix today as well. I don't know how well it's going to perform. This, by the way, is a 55 grain bullet loaded in 223, not necessarily 5.56. I'll be shooting the AR-15. This is a DPMS Oracle with a stainless steel barrel. We got a Timney trigger on this one and a Vortex sight. This Timney trigger is fantastic. It's like 1.5 pounds, maybe it's 2 pounds. I don't recall. I could look that up. I will look that up. But it's a fantastic trigger on this gun. So we are shooting at 50 yards again today. I'm setting up the chronograph and we'll get started here in just a little bit. You might remember from our last episode, or previous episode, where we saw some effect from barrel heating, where group sizes and the consistency on the muzzle velocities consistently got better as the barrel got warmer and warmer. That was when I was shooting the IWI Tavor. I don't know if that same condition is going to happen shooting the AR. I really haven't seen that before. But to keep things consistent, and how I've shot all my groups for this entire session of Extreme Reloading, we're going to again shoot 10-shot groups. First up, RWS 55 grain soft points. At the target, the bullseye in the upper left corner. Hornady Match ELD bullets are next. These are 73 grain bullets, but I've got a nice twist rate on this rifle, so it shouldn't be any problem for it to stabilize. I don't know that though, and I guess we'll find out. At 50 yards though, we're probably not going to see any indication of that. Shooting now at the bullseye in the upper right target. That clears out. Make it safe. Well, that went pretty well overall. You may have noticed I noted that we're going to be measuring 9-shot groups only. Now I need to explain why. Well, on the last group that I fired, I took my 10 rounds and I was loading those into the magazine. Now I wasn't counting how many rounds, but I should have, I was loading, and when I emptied the bag, I made the assumption that there were 10 rounds in that mag. I then fired the entire mag, and then when I looked at the chronograph, I see that it registered only 9 rounds. Now sometimes a chronograph can miss a round. It's an erroneous round that gets kicked out. So it wasn't like the end of the world that I only had 9 rounds recorded. So that's okay. Then when I walked up to my target, I counted the rounds and I only had 9 rounds. So kind of scratching my head, I went back and sure enough my bag for group number 3 was empty. And so I didn't really know what to make of it. I cleaned up, put everything away, and during that process I found one stray round sitting there. That was a Sierra tipped Match King that never got fired. Well, setting up my chronograph all over again and so on and so forth really wasn't worth it because I was completely loaded, ready to leave the range. So I ended up firing only 9 rounds with those group number 3 Sierra tipped Match Kings. To make it all fair, I am going to remove the worst round from all of the groups that I fired. That includes the RWS, the Hornady factory ammo, and the other groups of my reloads. So, with that all in mind, let's see how things went. At the beginning of this video, you might remember that I said we're going to try to answer a few questions today. Well, the first question that we're trying to answer is which one shot best? 5 different groups were fired, 2 were factory, 3 were reloads. Which one fired best? Which one performed the best? And I should also say that from this point forward in this season of extreme reloading, we're starting to focus more on group size, smaller group size of course being better, and less on the consistency of the muzzle velocities. We have already demonstrated in previous episodes, previous work, that we can drive those muzzle velocities down to the best we've gotten, 6 feet per second standard deviation of muzzle velocities over a 10-shot group. That's pretty darn good. And for a semi-automatic AR style 5.56 rifle, I really don't think you're going to get much better than that consistently. In fact, overall, good, well-crafted ammunition, it's really going to give you about 15, 18, maybe sometimes in the 20s standard deviation of those muzzle velocities. I try to stay out of the 20s, and I feel very comfortable, very confident that we can always craft ammo that sits us in about the teens of muzzle velocity standard deviation. So, back to our question, which group performed best? That is the 40 grain Barnes Varminators. I know that this bullet performs well in all my 5.56s. That's the 5.56 AR-15 that we were shooting today. That's a DPMS Oracle. That's also the IWI Tavor and the Mini 14. For some reason, these rifles just like the 40 grain Barnes Varminators. And these are being pushed by Varget powder, 25.3 grains. That's really a very, very nice 10-shot group. But if we're going to shoot this thing at much more than 100 yards, well, this little 40 grain with a very small ballistic coefficient, well, it kind of starts dropping like a rock in contrast to the 69 grain bullets. Speaking of which 69 grain bullet performed best? Well, this one I wasn't so sure of. It looked like the Barnes Match Burner was kind of consistently outperforming the Sierra Tipped Match King, but I wasn't sure of it until today. This test, kind of the final test and all the different shots, groupings and sessions that I've fired with these two different bullets, confirms in my mind that, again, Barnes 69 grain Match Burner is a very, very good bullet for these different 5.56 rifles. This is being pushed again by Varget by 24.3 grains of powder. And in all cases, remember, I'm firing the Federal AR Match primers. These are really some good primers for this type of rifle. As a reloader, a person who's been reloading for 30 plus years, somewhere in that range, 30 plus for sure, I really am convinced that uniform and consistent brass will drive the results of consistent ammunition, small group sizes, and so on and so forth. Well, with this AR platform, 5.56 rifles, I've never seen that. I mean, what we have seen is that simply sorting by head stamp, Federal Champion, Lake City, Norma, that's about as far as you have to go. So today was again, one of those final experiments. I spent literally hours sorting through Lake City 2015, so LC15 brass. I weight sorted it all. And then I took the most consistent of the weights, as you saw in the opening part of the video, and I subset it to make sure that case head diameter was consistent, neck uniformity was consistent. Now, I didn't turn them, but I did measure them, and I sorted them that way. And the overall length of the case was consistent. I should have seen standard deviation of those muzzle velocities dropping down to that, 6, 7, 8, 9 range. I didn't see that. I saw kind of the same old stuff, 15, 16, 17, 20, those sort of things. It didn't do any better at all in contrast to just head stamp sorting. And I think that's as far as we have to go with the AR or this 5.56 platform. Why is that? Well, it all goes back to the type of action. We're talking about a semi-automatic. Yes, one's a direct gas impingement, another is a piston operated. Doesn't make any difference. These rifles are not really designed for precision fire. They're designed for reliability. And we saw that. So that is a big lesson learned. Now, the last question that we wanted to address is really this showdown question. Here we put some very high quality factory ammunition up against my reloads. And you know what? All three of my reloads beat the factory ammunition. smaller group sizes. But what I didn't beat in this case was the standard deviation of muzzle velocities. The factory ammo was achieving what I have achieved in the past, and arguably I have done better in previous episodes of Extreme Reloading. Now, the experiments I was trying today with the brass didn't really pan out, and so I wouldn't redo that. I wouldn't put that much effort into it if it didn't pay out in benefits. But if we look at all the other baseline factory ammo I've been firing throughout this season of Extreme Reloading, you'll see that I've always beaten the factory ammo with my reloads. But this factory ammo was kind of hard to beat. It's the best of the factory ammo that I've shot. And no doubt about it, that Hornady 73 grain ELD, that's some good ammo straight from the factory. Well, thanks for watching this episode of Extreme Reloading. We got one more coming up, and that's our season finale. So subscribe and stay tuned. Watch for the next one coming up in a couple of weeks.